Maddie, it's great to meet you. My first question to you is, you know, being involved in the RV world, how did you survive the whole COVID time period, and how many waves did that time period create that you're still feeling and dealing with now?
Yeah, hi Joe. Thanks for having me on. It's a great question. It's definitely where my story kind of starts with RV travel.
Yeah.
I've been in the travel industry for over a decade now and joined working with RVshare in mid 2019. So heading into that and working with a company that was kind of had low awareness. We are an RV rental company and similar model to like an Airbnb or a Vrbo. So if you own an RV, list it on our site for others to rent.
Oh,
And my previous job was working at Vrbo and working within the peer-to-peer marketplace space. We obviously, that in itself has a large story and the upcoming growth of the vacation rental industry and Airbnb. And so it was really fun to get my hands on now the RV travel space and just how we could do something similar for RVs.
yeah.
And in 2019, that was still rather unknown. And it was, how are we going to make an impact? Of course, fast forward to that next year,
Yeah.
um, COVID-19 hits in March, and, companies were pivoting and looking for ways to figure out how to stay alive. Being on the leadership team at RVshare, it was definitely a stressful time. And internally, we, had to with some of our employees and look at ways that we could pivot. What we didn't realize was on the horizon was that RV travel was actually going to be a relatively big solution for, Americans to still get out and travel and explore while social distancing. Um, the first thing that kind of crossed our desk really soon after lockdowns happened was that there was a need for social distancing for medical workers
Yeah.
and other contract type of workers.
Yeah.
So they were turning towards RVs. I had actually seen a grassroots group pop up on Facebook called RVs for MDs. And, we had really seen our bookings, leisure bookings of travelers, cancel and just drop to zero. So at this point in time, it was kind of just what can we do to stay alive? And that could also just be how can we support our community? And maybe it isn't bringing in revenue or money at this point, but where can we put our time for those that are left working at RVshare? So RVs for MDs was a great resource. It was a Facebook group, like I mentioned, that was just trying to pair nurses and doctors with RV owners. We were obviously a great partner for that since we already kind of had that network effect and we had thousands and thousands of owners of RVs across the United States that we could pair with doctors and nurses looking for those. So we kind of put that program in place relatively quickly and scrappy. And before we knew it, we had, the news knocking on our door about how we were doing that. And our CEO was interviewed by Good Morning America,
Wow.
CNN, and every major news outlet in the US talking about this program. And then fast forward probably another 30 days, we're kind of heading into early May. People are starting to get a little antsy
Uh-huh.
and feeling locked down and are turning towards the outdoors as a way to escape. And to do that, to go camping and experience the outdoors, we saw our reservations and bookings jump like 1,000%
Yeah.
overnight. We brought in a crazy amount of bookings for RV rentals and had just a boom of a summer that, I think as a marketer for the company, we had a Wall Street Journal article that said is now the summer of RV travel. And so I couldn't have really dreamt up such a crazy ride for the
Wow.
RV industry. And that really led us down this path of growth and acceleration for a company, that was on this short and small like trajectory in
Yeah.
2019, and the company in demand literally 10x'd from 2020 to about 2022. So it was a huge growth story for the RV share and for the RV rental industry.
I listened to a book recently about how things go viral, and they were even going back to like the early days of the painters, like how you would spread the word, how it would take hold. Because there is a mystery to it. Like, how do these things take off? How does this become popular, but this
Yeah.
really good idea doesn't? And when I think about what you've just said about this, it's so serendipitous. I mean, you had the right time. Like everything was a perfect storm. And then you got the right media attention. RVs make sense. They're already expensive. Why not share it? Why not just kind of be a part of the Verbo thing? Like all of it totally makes sense, which is that's so cool. So let me ask you this. In your role right now, if I was to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day and one of the kids wanted to know what you did on a daily basis, how would you answer them?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, I would say that what I like most about my job is that I found something I'm extremely passionate about, and I followed one of my passions, and that would be travel in general. My love for travel starts back when I was like 7 or 8. My grandparents lived and retired in Roatan, Honduras. They were world travelers and decided that's where they were going to kind of plant their roots for their senior years. And so my family went to visit them quite often, and that really opened my eyes to different experiences outside the United States, as well as my family was great about taking, small road trips in the U.S. We have so many amazing things to see in the United States, and
Yeah.
so travel has always been a passion of mine. And I think what I didn't realize is that you could really find and build a career around those passions. And when I was looking for my first job, I wanted to find something within the marketing space because that's kind of where my skill set lied. But to do it within a growing and startup type mentality around travel was really cool. So I would definitely say follow what you're passionate about and, base it in something where you can obviously build a career out of that. So, today I get to market and promote a way of travel, which is RV travel, and getting families and friends outside to experience the outdoors in a recreational vehicle. And so I get to talk about that all day, whether it's on podcast or a TV segment, or I look to talk to the media so that they can promote RV travels to families like yours.
So let me ask you this. What did you want to be in the third grade? What was your ideal dream life?
Oh, in the third grade. Oh, I probably wanted to be like a singer or something. And the
Okay.
funniest part about that is I cannot sing. Like, if I had one wish, it would be to maybe even have one musical bone in my body. And I think that was maybe at a time where pop music with Britney Spears or NSYNC was like what was in the forefront of pop culture. So as a third grader, that's what I was seeing and hearing. Um, but yeah, my passion really quickly came to the forefront in high school. I had a great high school education and was lucky enough to be surrounded by some great teachers and mentors that kind of showed me why marketing was the right route for me. Our school had a newspaper, and so at first I wanted to be a journalist. And found that extremely interesting. I loved storytelling and specifically telling other people's stories. And then, that quickly evolved into marketing because I kind of loved the idea of business and entrepreneurship. My parents own restaurants, my grandparents have owned restaurants. So I've kind of come from this long line of entrepreneurship. So it's like, how can I mix the two? And marketing and public relations is really where that kind of netted out for my college career. And then now post college, I've been in marketing and public relations, for the last decade.
So talk to me about RVs. What good experiences have you had yourself with RV travel?
Yeah, so like I said, my story kind of starts back in 2019. I had not really experienced RV travel before that. I had gone camping a few times, but my experiences with camping was tech camping, laying on the ground, usually having a rainstorm come through, and then finding myself floating in an inch or two of water. So camping wasn't even really that big of a passion of mine. However, I did love getting outdoors and exploring the United States, especially when it comes to the amazing national parks we have here and all the different variety of landscapes and the ways that you can really get outside and have just an incredible experience. So when RV travel kind of became an opportunity for me to work on and promote, really opened my eyes to just being able to have those experiences in the comfort of an RV. So it matched with my expectations and my needs very well. Um, and RVshare, again, is a rental marketplace where you can, shop and look for RVs anywhere in the US. We have all different types of makes and models. So it's a great place to even try before you buy. So if you're interested in trying out the RV lifestyle or maybe trying a specific type of RV, I think you'll be surprised to find that what you think you want to buy or own isn't actually what meets your needs. And so it's a great way to try that out. But RVshare, as an employee, you get a stipend to go on an RV trip every year. And I also have had the benefit of traveling and staying in RVs for work. So I've done more than 25 RV rental trips now at this point in the last 6 years. And I've had some incredible experiences. One of my favorites was renting an Airstream, which for those that don't know are the big like silver retro kind of feeling RVs that you pull behind an SUV or a truck. And my husband and I at that time took it out to Big Bend National Park, which is one of the most remote parks in the United States out in West Texas.
Yeah.
Um, and it's also the number one dark sky zone in the US. So you get the darkest skies you've ever seen, which means amazing, amazing views of
Yeah.
the Milky Way and the stars with your bare eye. And you really feel like you're almost on another planet or that you're alone in this like amazing landscape. And so that experience really kind of fueled my passion to be able to see more of those places in the US and possibly even RV outside of the United States. I haven't gotten there quite yet, but that is something that's on my list.
Yeah. The interesting thing about RV travel, I know my wife and I, when we get to the point where we have the latitude to travel in retirement, we want to do that. That's definitely something that's on our list. Um, what was the most, and there's one thing about having a dream and another thing when it actually is something that you delve into. What was the most surprising thing about RV travel that you didn't expect you were going to realize once you started doing it?
I think just how much I was going to like it. I think
Yeah.
that there is a stereotype that has been around RV travel for so long, and it's definitely more of like your parents' retirement plan or kind of what you do when you're retired. So that's kind of the way I saw it, especially at that time. I think that perspective for some has maybe changed because of the pandemic and the popularity of RV travel in the last
Yeah.
5 years. At least now, from my hope, it has. We've seen a lot more younger generations, kind of take on RV travel and like van life and explore and be able to use and work on the road and really prioritize that flexibility. So I think things have changed, but back then, it was more of people who would do this in their retirement age, and I didn't really see that as something that I would enjoy. It just wasn't necessarily on my radar, and but once I started to experience it, really just fell in love with the lifestyle. It definitely helps you disconnect from your everyday, kind of get away from the noise of social media and the news and the, mundane day to day. When you're traveling in an RV, can move around a lot. You can experience some really remote places because it's really at home wherever you want it to be, wherever you want to park it. And there's so many different ways to experience RV travel, right? Like you could go to a luxury high-end RV resort that has the resort style pool, maybe it's beachfront and even has a tiki bar on site. But you also can go to BLM land, which is public land, and park there for free overnight and probably be the only one for miles,
Yeah.
which is my preferred way to travel and stay and to be able to really unlock that experience has just broadened my horizons a lot. And it really is like soul fulfilling, which I know sounds like deep, but it really does kind of renew your outlook on life and just kind of gets like breathe some fresh air, really.
Yeah,
It just
for
is
sure.
so amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, who's been an inspiration for you in your career? Who's been kind of a hero person?
Oh, that's a good question. Somebody who kind of pops in my head right away is Sarah Blakely, who is the founder and CEO of Spanx. I've always looked up to women that have kind of been self-starters, people who have grown and driven forward their own businesses. Um, like I said, I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I would love to have my own business one day and really see that grow. And personally, I mention her just because one, she's extremely successful and has grown her business to $1 billion business, really starting from nothing and being self-funded. But I think also she's just extremely authentic to herself, and she's really great at telling her story and her brand story and kind of being a positive light for women leaders, but then also just again, just being authentic to who she is and the brands that she's growing. Um, Another person that comes to mind is my mom. She is an entrepreneur and has, you know, started her own business through creating restaurants in Indianapolis, and she has 3 restaurants and hundreds of employees. And my dad, who was traditional corporate ladder climber, successful in his own right, actually left his career to support her. So I think just when it comes to looking up to strong women, those are two that come to mind.
So, you're talking about having your own business at some point. What have you learned at RVshare? What have been some seminal moments or lessons that you've learned that you can take into your venture as you move to that dream of having your own business?
Yeah, one is actually very recent learning, and which kind of goes off the timeline of the COVID-19 pandemic because, we talked about the growth and the amazing trajectory that it put RVshare on.
Yeah.
But what we didn't talk about is the come down. Everything that goes up must come down. And although we're not, back to level like booking and reservation levels of 2019 and probably won't ever go back. I mean, the awareness of this service and experience that you can have in outdoor travel is now much greater and people don't, forget about this offering. However, it was impossible to maintain that trajectory, especially when something accelerated it so great, like a pandemic that's, once in a lifetime, hopefully, experience. And so to be able to maintain that growth as a business leader, again, almost impossible. So I would say that, probably by 2022, early 2023, we started to plateau in terms of that growth and kind of that trajectory that put us on. And I think a learning that I have now seeing being in 2025 and looking back at where we've gone is, um, there's such thing as leaders who are kind of peacetime leaders and wartime leaders. And I think there's a big difference in that. And it's very easy to lead a company when it's doing well and it's successful and it's on a great trajectory. And it's very difficult to lead a company when you're more in fight mode and looking for ways to grow, looking to ways to sustain, looking ways to motivate your team. And so I've seen that just it hasn't been and it never is in business, all butterflies and sunshine. A lot of times you're going to have to grind and buckle back down and find that grit to continue growing and expanding your business and leading and your troops to that finish line. So I think I've seen that now in the roller coaster we've been on at our VShare. Again, the company has had incredible success
Yeah.
and the growth story is fantastic. But when things are going well, things also eventually level out, and it's what you're going to do with that is what is going to make a success story.
So, what is your motivator every day to do the job that you do? but you also have to evolve as a human being, obviously, in a variety of ways to get to a point where you run your own business. What is the ultimate motivator for you every day to grow and evolve and to be at the top of your game?
Yeah, I think the motivator for me every day is, I love what I do in terms of the service and product I'm working on. I really believe in travel and in in providing the experience for others to get outdoors in this case and experience RV travel maybe for the first time. We actually we use Slack on our company channel that, is a way to message each other throughout the day. And our engineers built this Slack channel of reviews. So every time someone leaves us a review, it pops up on our Slack and it says, 5 stars. I had an incredible experience. This is the best trip my family's ever taken. Or, we haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. We finally saved up to take an RV trip and we decided to go here. And it was an incredible experience thanks to this RV owner from RVshare. And those words of like affirmation and reassurance is extremely motivating to continue to build a great product and experience via RVshare. And then I think for my personal growth, I always prioritize working for a CEO or a leadership team that allows you to take the initiative and pursue personal growth within the company, which could include, I have this idea, and is it okay if I run with it? And them giving you the green light. An example of that for my personal growth here at RVshare is, I do public relations and marketing. A lot of times, those people are behind the camera, behind the microphone, not the one out there singing the praises of the company and promoting it on a more visual or vocal level. And in this case, I raised my hand and said, I've had a lot of experience with RV travel. I have a cool story to tell. Is it okay if I tell it? And I have kind of built this travel expert persona and kind of become the face of RVshare for media interviews, talking to journalists, being on panels at conferences, and really honing that skill so that I can use it here at RVshare, but then take that on with me to my next job. Hopefully, as a CEO one day, which I think is a really valuable skill when you're trying to tell the story of your company, your product, your service, or whatever.
Absolutely. So, for someone that has a thirst for travel, what was one of the most unexpectedly magical places that you've been to? You didn't expect it to be that way, but it was just indelible.
We took an amazing trip to a bunch of them come to mind, actually. I'm trying to decide exactly which one, but
Yeah.
I would say it's this one's not related to RV travel, but I went to Cairo in Egypt
Yeah.
in 2021. And we kind of just we're looking for an experience outside of our comfort zone. Probably every year or two, looking to have a travel experience. And when I say outside my comfort zone, I just want to go somewhere that kind of pushes my boundaries, pushes me into another like com outside my comfort zone and allows us to experience a culture that we haven't experienced before. Egypt came up, I think, honestly, just like the time of year was right. We went in January, and the political climate there was a little better than it is now.
Yeah.
And so it kind of felt like the right time to have that experience. And oh boy, that definitely was one of the more magical, but crazy experiences I've ever had. We did go, with a travel tour guide that helped us plan everything. Um, but being, I had that was my probably my first like Arabic country I've been to. And just experiencing Muslim culture from like the call to prayer every morning. But then on top of that, being in Cairo, one of the most ancient cities in the world, and
Yeah.
experiencing the history there was just truly incredibly mind-blowing. It's something we talk about on a weekly basis about just how
That's
much we've
awesome.
learned there and the experiences we had. And it was extremely eye-opening. And I, have since traveled to like Southeast Asia and South America to really capture that same feeling.
Yeah.
Um, And nothing has quite lived up to it. We're always like, we just went to Cambodia and flew into Siem Reap and did Angkor Wat, which is another ancient temple. And, it's still 3 or 4 thousand years newer than the Egyptian pyramids. So we're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is kind of new. So not as
Yeah.
not as crazy, but still love learning about ancient cultures and then also experiencing the culture of modern day that's
Sure.
around that. And
Yeah.
that's always been a driving passion of mine.
Yeah. So of everything that you've done in your career up to this point, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough question. Um, I think I'm most proud of kind of truly becoming an expert within my current field of public relations. When I was at Verbo, that was my first job. I started as an intern, worked my way up to a PR specialist, left on the brink of becoming a PR manager. Like, it was a lateral climb. And I had left to actually freelance and consult. And at the time, I was in my late 20s. And a lot of people told me, like, you're too young for that. You don't have the experience. And what I found was I was able to still maintain a roster of travel clients. I was able to stay within the travel space because that's where my expertise lied. And I had a Rolodex and a roster of media contacts so that could tell these travel brands stories. And I, again, really loved that and had the drive to prove others wrong
Yeah.
and build my own consulting business. Then I went full time with one of my clients, which was RVshare. And when I did that, and I joined the company, I was like, I would love to be the director of communications. And they're like, oh, you're gonna have to prove yourself. You can come on as an individual contributor and be, just the PR manager. But because of the skills I was able to prove throughout the pandemic as a leader within the communication space, because our comms people really had to flex that muscle across really any industry at that point of just really how to navigate such a difficult time.
Yeah.
I was able to prove out that, I was worthy of that, not only that title, but the respect of being an expert within communications. And so now I think I've been able to continue that momentum. And I've consulted for other brands and be able to really talk about the playbook that I had built at RVshare. And I am now seen as somebody who, again, is an expert in their field. And I'm really proud of that. And I hope to continue that and expand my expertise across, other verticals.
Absolutely. So if anyone has any questions, they want to reach out, they want to learn more about RVshare, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yeah, you can find more about RVshare at rvshare.com. And you can find me at madditravels.com. It's MADDI travels.com. So if you're interested to hear more about me or my skill set, you can find me there. But it was great speaking with you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for allowing me
absolutely.
the opportunity.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, Maddie. I appreciate it. Best of luck with everything.